Hi, welcome to day 3 Marketeers show. As you see, as usual, we have guests today, and let me.
Episode 35.
Yeah, it's 35 finally, and just want to give a quick shout out to everybody out there. Just stay safe, right? Because Malaysia cases went up to like 6,000, crazy, never happened before. So yeah, whatever it is, stay safe and stay home. And today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is we have a very interesting guest. Just now, at the backstage, we were having so much discussion and we were learning so much from Krishna. And seriously, if you want to talk about not just digital marketing, in fact, Krishna has worked on so many different marketing platforms. So later there will be a giveaway, quick one. So when it comes to the time, then we will pull out that question and see whether anyone who gets the answer right will get to spend an hour with Krishna. And basically, today we're going to talk about custom acquisition, which is a very important thing. So basically, if you have any questions regarding customer acquisition via digital marketing platforms and all that, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section. And later on, we're going to have Krishna coming up. And if you're watching this, right, say hi. Chiwai is the first one. Yo, what's up, Chiwai? You ready to win something? Another 1 hour session with Krishna? Because, yeah, finally, right? Okay, just for you, Chiwai. We just want to make sure that hopefully, we will have more giveaways for you guys more often. Okay, now. Okay, so today we have Krishna. Krishna is a very special guest that has wear a lot of hats and he's really crazy, experienced in a lot of things. But I don't want to take this limelight because he is actually Manfred's guest. So Manfred, do us an honor to please share with us, please introduce our guest today before we bring him up. Manfred.
Krishna actually helps in my project, and he's the go-to person if you have anything in doubt. I'm very grateful for him to appear in our show today to share his valuable knowledge. He's really an all-rounder, one of the rare people that almost you ask anything about digital marketing, he can actually give you a lot of advice.
That's a very serious compliment coming from Manfred.
Marketing automation, mobile app install, e-commerce, even especially Facebook also, UAC, universal ad campaign, app store search ads, and many things. So basically, I finally managed to get him. And one interesting thing is his background and mine is quite similar, but of course he has more variety than me. Let him go and share with you later on. So without further ado, Krishna, you take over.
Welcome, Krishna. Please share with us a little bit about your background. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today. To start with, today I'm running a digital marketing agency, actually a marketing agency. We specialize in digital and offline advertising, and we obviously consult clients for marketing automation. I've been doing this since December 2019. However, for going through my career, actually, I'm a double grad. I'm a grad in electronics, 2005. I started my digital career, or rather my advertising career in 2011 after doing my master's in business administration with consulting as a practice. Majority of my 10 years of advertising career has been in agencies. I worked with agencies like Group M, all regional focused clients, high spending, high budget, multi-channel clients. And then I moved on to Dentsu. I was there for about 6 months in 2017, and after that I got an opportunity to work for a startup. They were Series T when I joined. I was leading their marketing team in Singapore, and I was with them until they IPO'd, and I was there for 4 months before I decided to start on my own. From an expertise perspective, I would say metrics, digital advertising, planning and execution, goal setting, KPI formulation, offline marketing. I mean, there's a lot you can ask me about. Just fire your questions. Tell me the category you want.
Guys, he has already kind of throw the challenge to you guys. If you have any questions regarding managing, first, I can already see quite a few angles that we can grill a little bit. Like first thing first, how do we actually get high-paying clients? That's one thing. Not easy. To a lot of people. And second thing is how do we actually manage client in a different way? Because we have a lot of agency people here, like Chiwai is one of them. So basically, we all have constant problem about, all these are the common challenges. So guys, any questions, very specific, even to your campaign specific, right? Fire them up. So yes. I want to fire up with the first question, Chris. Now, you see, when it comes to digital channels, right, to be frank, to a lot of people, they are kind of not sure because especially those businesses coming from a conventional background, right? To them, it's kind of digital, first thing first, is totally kind of like a totally foreign language to them. And when they want to start, they really don't know which channel will be the first one. So our first question to you here is this, how can we help a business effectively identify which digital channels to use, in order to kickstart their presence?
Very good question. I usually start by looking at where the conversion happens, whether it's a website or it's a mobile app, because these two inherently mean different things, right? That's part one. So let's keep it simple. Let's say the conversion happens on website. The part number two, which I usually ask my clients, is, are you a new category? Let's say if you're an innovative brand or innovative solution where there's not enough data and you're trying to create, maybe think about Grab like a long time ago, right? So if you're a new category, it's really hard. But assume you're just doing digital transformation, there is a category which is available. I would say the first place I go for is usually search, without a shadow of doubt. That's your first channel to go to. It's very simple. No matter which country you look at when it comes to media index, you can look at reports from Marketeers and Statista. Search is the number one behavior when people want to discover a new solution or they have a need, followed by every other channel, right? And search is also unique because it's a pull-based marketing, meaning the customer is telling you, hey, I have a need, right? So you can show your ad depending on the right keyword and take them to your site, and hopefully there's a conversion. So that's your first channel. That's your answer to which is the first channel.
Okay, so when it comes to the channels, sorry, please go on.
No, I actually know what's your second question. There are certain cases where SEM will not work, for sure. So let's take an example of, so I'm working for a guy who sells automated laundry, by the way. Now, automated laundry,
all right.
Right. So remember how in Singapore, we use poles to hang our clothes. So automated laundry is relatively new, right? So a lot of people still don't know about automated laundry, so they don't really type for it. They are still typing keywords like, where can I buy a bamboo pole, or how to dry my clothes when it's raining, for example, right? So in a way, SEM doesn't work so much. So that's where you add on extra channels. So when you think about adding on extra channels, there's two which is easily available to every other brand without fail. You have Google Display Network and you have Facebook. So I kind of consider Facebook and Google Display Network kind of equivalent, except that Facebook obviously has social elements to it. You can react, you can comment, you can have direct messages come in, which is not possible in Google Display Network. However, if you have an ad which is a video, you can use YouTube advertising. It works brilliantly. And in YouTube, you have ad sequencing campaign facility, meaning you can show message 1 followed by message 2 followed by message 3 only if the customer engages with them. Now, if you wanted to do the same thing on Facebook, it's not available to most advertisers. It's only available to advertisers who have a reach and frequency. So when you try to create a campaign, you have two types of campaigns you can create: an auction-based, and the other one is reach and frequency. It's a special drop-down. If you have a reach and frequency option available to you, then you can do ad sequencing, and that's only available for a reach and frequency campaign, not for a conversion campaign. So I would say these are the two places you go for. Of course, if you're B2B, LinkedIn is your go-to place. Of course, if you're looking for intellectual kind of audiences, you might want to try Twitter. That's a great place to find developers or people who are more intellectually bent about sharing stuff. So Twitter is great. Again, I haven't tried for all categories, but for developer, it works brilliantly.
I just want to quickly, bring up a kind of like a discussion, and it happens to a lot of businesses right now. Because to be frank, having one channel is not enough, but probably because you see, I want to actually look at the behavior. You see, like let's say, for example, when I look for some business, I would actually have, before I decide to buy, yes, I found you on Google, and then I decided that, okay, you looks pretty cool, and I probably will go to your Facebook and check out whether this guy is for real or not. So it's like, we always believe that in a way, right, you need to have a combination of platforms. So if somebody who is really new, it's based on what you were discussing just now, Facebook and Google will be a good one to start. And what about LinkedIn or Instagram or maybe even YouTube? So how should we play with all this? Yeah.
So when I say Facebook, apologies, when I say Facebook, I automatically include Instagram because they essentially use the same platform to just choose a placement. So the only difference between Facebook and Instagram is just the placement, and you can control it from the same interface. So when I say Facebook, please kindly take it as an extension of both. Now, to your question, usually, yes, people discover by search. However, they might look for social proof on Facebook, but I haven't found that to be true all the time. When I say I haven't found it to be true, let me explain a little bit more. So let's look at the algorithms. Let's look at the algorithm on Google. Let's look at the algorithm on Facebook. What these algorithms essentially do for you, especially when you're doing a conversion-focused campaign, they're looking for elements which kind of guarantee them that there's a conversion going to happen, because the algorithm needs to make money at the end of the day, right? It doesn't just need to serve the purpose of the customer, it also needs to make a sale for you, right? So consider this laundry example, right? When it comes to Facebook, as I mentioned, this is a new category. Maybe you have like 6 brands in Singapore selling automated laundry, just as an example, right? Google actually has much more data compared to Facebook when it comes to conversion. So Google is far more capable to actually find you a buying client as compared to Facebook for the same dollar, to be honest. Why? Again, this is very simple, because ultimately, as I mentioned, the first behavior people exhibit is search behavior. And almost every e-commerce store relies on their website, meaning they're almost always running a Google or a Shopify pixel on it. So Facebook doesn't really have as much information as Google does. So this is where I really believe that you must do SEM, and I have tested it on data. Once you hit so I don't know if you know about the response saturation. So it looks like a half moon curve. So as you start investing more money into a channel, what would happen is an incrementally large amount of money does not give you enough returns. So at that particular point, you have to ultimately start doing Facebook or other channels anyways. So the judgment of whether to invest in upper funnel or not upper funnel, I would say display kind of activity, should be based on your response curve instead of saying that, hey, let's invest in both.
Right.
And finally, if you are a legit business on Google, let's say, right, might as well list a business property, Google My Business Property, and ask your customers to give you reviews.
Right.
So that's equivalent to social proof that you might be seeking on Facebook or Instagram.
True. I would definitely agree with that. So yeah. Thank you so much for the very detailed explanation, because it kind of gave a lot of people some better clarity. Because to be frank, coming from one of our audiences, the Digital Run ST also has very similar question. I mean, but he was really coming from the startup point where when you were starting out your digital agency, you were saying that you started in 2019, right? So he's asking, which platform do you focus on promoting your business? Whether on top of word of mouth. Yeah.
So this is embarrassing. Actually, I recently developed my website in April, and at the moment I'm using LinkedIn and search. That's it. I don't use Facebook at all. And actually, I've been blessed quite a bit. So I get referrals quite often. So Manfred, I got connected to Manfred by a referral. I got connected to other clients as a referral. So, I realized that, okay, this is a point when I need to actually rely on my own skills. So I recently started writing blogs. I recently started outreach on LinkedIn. I don't really believe in Facebook so much, because what Facebook doesn't have for me, like if I'm trying to acquire a client, I actually want to see if he's a decision maker, right?
Right.
So I can't tell on Facebook if the person I'm engaging with is a legit business decision maker, or the amount of budget he has. Whereas on LinkedIn, I can look at company growth rates, I can look at other stuff, I can even audit his property. So just using basic tools, I can audit if he's got his conversion pixels up and running on his website. I can pretty much guesstimate the amount of traffic he's getting and stuff like that using SEMrush or stuff like that. So to be honest, I find LinkedIn to be a better channel for the kind of customers I want to acquire. Facebook is like a bloodbath at the moment, So you've got a lot of ads going on Facebook. So it's very hard to distinguish between, agency A versus agency B.
I want to link this back to our topic today, which is talking about customer acquisition. Because to be frank, we are still stuck at the first. I mean, not to say stuck. We are still, at this first topic over here, which is, I think, it's a very important insight coming from Krishna over here. Because you see, you want to really know where your clients hang out. And then building a presence should be not just about your own feel good. That I like Facebook. I want to build this because I like to build this. You want to go there because you must understand why are you doing it. It's like I always I probably will put this way, where you need to always have the end in mind when you're starting out. So you must know why are you doing this thing. That's a very good insights. Thank you so much, and thanks ST for the question. Now I want to bring it up to our next question, which is you kind of touch base on that. How do we judge? How do we, let's say when we are trying out on different platforms. Let's say if somebody who's really new to digital and they were starting with maybe Google and Facebook and maybe a few. How do we see? Is there a pattern that we can judge that to decide, okay, this is working or this is not? How should we look at the whole thing?
So to make this conversation and understanding easy, let's take it one by one. So let's say we are trying to judge conversion campaigns, meaning your end goal is acquisition, number one. Number two, let's spread it by channels. So let's say you're going to search engine marketing, for example, right? For search engine marketing, is really simple. You can't, of course, you've got a search planner, which will tell you what's the estimated cost per click or so on and so forth. But ultimately, when you actually run your campaigns, you get an auction insight on your Google dashboard, which tells you who else is competing against you. That will already tell you if you're getting a bigger impression ratio or not, right? And your GA is going to tell you the conversion rate. So in my opinion, what I've seen for e-commerce categories, 1%, 2% category conversion rate is great, right? So for search engine marketing, you want to make sure you have sufficient impression share and you're getting click-throughs. It's very hard to judge whether you're getting cheaper click-through rate than the other guy, right? Of course, there's a quality score, which tells you, so there's something called a keyword quality score, which kind of indicates whether your ad should be served higher than the other guy. So if you have got quality scores like 7 and above, you're doing all right, don't worry. You won't have the highest impression share or absolute top of the page if Google didn't think you were converting enough. So that by itself is evidence that they're showing you more often because you're most likely converting more often for Google and thereby paying Google more, right?
Right.
So that's one way to judge on Google. With Google Display Network, the metric can be slightly more convoluted and tough. So I usually look at three things. So the number one thing which I look at is I go for placement reports. So I almost never use a smart display campaign. So I don't know, for the layman, there are two kinds of display campaign. You've got your display campaigns where you let the algorithm do most of the work. All you're doing is setting up audiences and bids. Whereas the smart, with the more manual kind of campaign, the regular Google display campaigns, you even set up the context and categories where you want to advertise on. In those cases, I would say, statistically speaking, if we rely on Sysmec's benchmark. Sysmec is a global measurement company. I think it died in 2019. But the benchmark rate of CTR at that time was 0.20. Now you have WordStream, which releases Google Display Network CTR by category. It's about 0.4 or something like that. So look for that benchmark and try to see if you're hitting above that benchmark. That's number one. Number two, the second thing which you want to look forward to is actually your placement report. So depending on whether you're using video or just static, you will have two kinds of placements. You'll have YouTube placement and you have display or publisher placements. Now in this case, you don't want to show up. So I usually, I on a diligent basis, 3 to 7 days a week, once in 3 or 7 days, I usually check out each placement to see if it's actually showing it up in a place which is not a clickbait. Because that's costing you money, and then so that's the second phase. Third thing which I do is the audience itself, right? So ultimately, if you're targeting the right audience, what you will see on your GA is low bounce rate. Now, low bounce rate is vague. So maybe I'll quantify it a little bit. When you go down to your Google Analytics traffic, you will usually see advertising bounce rates of 90% and above, right?
Because
so if you're doing well, because they just come onto the landing page, it's not something relevant, they bounce up, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, if you're doing somewhere around 70 to 80%, you are doing brilliantly well.
Oh,
if you're doing 80 to 90, you're most likely above average already. 90 to 95, room for improvement. 95 and above, stop advertising. Right? So,
you see, this is really something that a lot of people are actually dying to hear, because to be frank, whenever people are running ads on Facebook or whatever, YouTube or Google and all that, right? The most often, I teach Facebook ads. So the questions that I get often is really like, how should I judge? How should I know whether I'm doing cool or not? So I think Krishna gave a very very useful and powerful so-called explanation just now, whereby yes, there are industrial benchmarks, but I think what I believe is here is this: somehow I think you have to just have to get started. You have to start throwing money. Of course, I'm not asking you to pour the whole thing to the whole whatever before but the pattern only emerge when you start running ads. All right, that's what we believe in. Now, okay, I just want to quickly bring it up a little bit about our giveaway today, because let's put it this way: if you are watching this, even if you're watching the replay, okay, up to now, you should put in your questions right now. So basically, everybody would have one chance. I want you to quickly give a guess on, as you can already like hear from this guy. It sounds like, wow. Tell me which platform you never touch your hand on. Lay your hands on. It's kind of like, okay, now, but yet again, he has a number, of course. So I want you to guess how many marketing channel, both online and offline, has Krishna planned with, meaning that he has he has helped a client plan, customer acquisition on how many platforms. I think that will be the questions to ask. So the answer would be announced towards the end of the show. So basically, what you're gonna get is you're gonna get a 1 hour session with Krishna. So that's a very useful one, because basically you get to ask a lot of questions. You can bring up your campaign and say that, hey, how am I doing? You can even ask and say, hey, what should I do? How should I start? Which platform should I be going? And what are the benchmarks? Because, you heard him. He was just coining so many keywords and all these benchmark and terms and all these terminologies. Seriously, it's like foreign language to me, even though we are digital marketers. But I specialize in Facebook ads for the past many years, right? So to me, a lot of all these words are totally stranger.
I stopped at GA. That's it.
Yeah, man. I don't know all these different tracking platforms and all that. Wow. Seriously, Krishna, you are really what Manfred was saying about, seriously.
Yes. My apologies for complicating it. Sometimes you can just forget those third-party tools. Just look at your bounce rate, look at the time spent on the site. Yeah. Of course, you wouldn't be asking me this question if conversions were happening, You're asking me this question because maybe the conversions aren't happening anymore.
Yeah.
Judge even before you have data.
Which is most of the case, most of the time.
Most of the case, but when they are not spent, let's say, for example, if it's not converting, but I don't know what's wrong. You see, to a lot of people, this is one of the biggest pain, because you see, definitely you will know whether there is a result or not, but you want to find out what can you do to move on, right? So that's kind of like the struggle a lot of people are facing. Guys,
so
remember, sorry.
So before we continue, guys, remember the keyword is this. For this contest is offline and online. Okay.
Combined.
So the number is going to be significant, because it's not just your typical Facebook and Google's and all those things, both offline and online. All right. Sorry, guys.
Okay, let me give you another clue, right? This guy was coining some platform that I was like, huh? Okay. Even that, to me, you have to imagine that complex. So give me the number, right now. Type in the comment.
Never heard of.
Yeah, sort of, So, okay, now let's quickly reel over to the next question over here. Now, what about scaling? This is kind of like the next question that we have here. Let's say we see initial success, in a way, but when should we scale? How do we scale strategically? And how do we know that we have already hit a so-called, if there's such thing called a ceiling where, the roof is kind of like not, okay, you cannot push anymore. So what would be your take on
What are the telling signs that we can start scaling already?
Very good question. I actually love this question, and I was initially sharing with the team here. The reason I'm doing this for over a year and a half, because somebody actually asked me to optimize on one attribute, which nobody else does. So this attribute is time. How can you scale fast? And when do you know it's time to scale, right? So to answer you the first question, when do you know it's time to scale, or when should you scale? Actually, ASAP. As soon as you find an opportunity, capitalize. Don't hold back.
Okay.
That's the number one flaw, because we don't know if demand will exist, especially if you're using channels like SEM. Maybe you have demand today, maybe you won't have it tomorrow, right? So Even your demand planner on SEM will tell you some certain trends, like which months are active or which months are not. But then macroeconomic situation can change, so don't rely on future. If you think you're scaling right now, scale away. Now, how do I judge if I'm scaling right now? So I would say a very simple answer. Today, it's impossible to actually do a performance marketing without knowing if the customer actually converted. Right? It's pure laziness or lack of work to not figure out if the customer was good quality or the customer converted. Right? So let's take those hygiene facts away. So if you're saying you're getting enough customers and you can actually deliver the demand, go ahead, capitalize. Or if you can actually price up to capitalize, go ahead. So that's your first part of the question. Don't wait, right? Now to the next question. When do you know can you have more scale? So I call it a headroom. So if you think about headroom in any channel, I was actually drawing this. I don't know if it's clearly visible. So the curves look like this. I mean, the y-axis, which is here, is reach, and this is time. So when you run campaigns long enough, what would happen is on a daily basis, the incremental reach of the campaign will start to decline. So even before your conversion happens, so I use reach instead of conversions for a simple factor. There are B2B businesses where maybe it takes you about 2 weeks to close a customer, right? So do you wait for 2 weeks? You don't necessarily have to wait for 2 weeks, right? For a platform like Facebook, Google Display Network, LinkedIn, where you have reach numbers available to you, look for the incremental reach by day for your given budget. If it starts to reduce, you know you're already reaching a peak. You're not actually getting newer audiences for your campaign, number one. Number two, your frequency ratio will start to increase. Now, very easy. If you run a campaign for long enough time, let's say you run a stable campaign for 2 months, you might have a frequency ratio of 2.3 with whatever CPA and what's not, right? But then you start to scale your budget up. You will start to see your CPA go up, frequency ratios increase, whereas your reach per day go down. That's your signal you're reaching a peak curve already, right? This is more valid for platforms which actually don't tell you what's your curve. You know, when you have to spend incrementally high amount of budget to get more leads, right? Now, a platform like Google has a Google Performance Planner where you can actually see this very clearly. They call it a Performance Planner. You can actually go in today on Google AdWords, and you'll be able to, you know, if you run your activity for 2 months or 3 months, Google has enough data based on your keywords to tell you if you are reaching that endpoint, right? Let's say you don't have that data, then I would say use, in general, 80% impression share for your category, assuming your keywords are correct or accurate. For search engine marketing is already a good point to start thinking about other platforms. You know, so SEM is just unique, so it has to be handled differently. Google Display Network, of course, AdWords will give you the indicator, but other platform where you have reach and frequency numbers, you know, if you don't want to rely on CPA, because CPA sometimes tends to be, how to say, tends to change based on, based on like other competitive activity too. So you want to measure the reach ratios.
So for SEM is you will look at your impression share.
Correct.
For each
And
keyword or combination of keywords. Okay, understood.
Correct.
Wow. But I can see, I mean, Krishna, it's, you know, we can clearly see that you're very strong in terms of the analytical and especially very much skewed towards the SEM. You know, I'm not saying that you're not good in other platforms, but to be very frank, right, we looking at it, because I definitely resonate, because you see, whatever the metrics you're talking about, the frequency and all this kind of thing, we will look at the same thing on Facebook as well. When you're looking at the numbers coming up, it's kind of like really you're hitting the ceiling, and we need to stop scaling. We need to bring it back down. Now, these kind of are the things that a lot of people are not sure about, the things that people are not clear about, you know, when it comes to about scaling and looking for the platform. So I just want to quickly bring it over to our, you know, the next question over here. It looks like we will be kind of like having quite, you know, we're not having enough questions at the moment, but I think it's cool. Basically, what we can do is, I think we have a lot more questions coming, you know, in my head right now. But before that, let's finish whatever in mind. So now, I think you will bring back to, really, I want to bring back to the scenario where people are starting out. Now, of course, if you're talking about starting out right now, it's a bit too late. Already, it's like a third wave in Malaysia right now. So if you still haven't started changing a direction or looking into turning online, I think you're really, really late. But Yeah, having said that, there are still people who's looking at that. Okay, finally I've decided, this is already like a year now, I want to go online. Now, share with us, Krishna, what are the mistakes that to avoid for these people?
Well, several. There are always several mistakes. The biggest mistake, and I think we spoke about it, sometimes people don't set goals on GA, so they rely totally on the conversion metrics that look at Facebook or Google or whatsoever. I think that's your number one mistake. Rely on your GA metrics instead of your platform metrics. Number one. Number two.
You mean you should
every
rely on
plat-
GA instead of platform? Or
Correct.
yeah,
That's right.
okay.
That's right. Right. That's number one. Number two, ultimately, every campaign's algorithm requires certain set of data before it can algorithmically perform. So, example, when you do a mobile app acquisition campaign, you need at least 20 conversions. This is pre-iOS, by the way.
Yep.
So 20 conversions is minimum that you need before the campaign can be called, before you start to fiddle with the campaign, right? Now, this is straight from Facebook. So I'm trying to get away from Google because I spoke a lot about Google. So I'm going to try and speak about Facebook now. So I have had access with Facebook advertising managers. So usually what they suggest is when you first start your campaigns, start with 3 creatives, 2 ad sets, and enough budget to cover for 50 conversions in a 14-day period. So anything outside of it is a mistake, right? That's number one. That's on Facebook. And then on Facebook, I would also say don't be afraid to try cost control strategies. That's another mistake which I see. People always go for lowest cost. I would say rather, if you are not sure of how much you want to pay for a customer, have an estimated cost in your head. So let's say a customer pays you $100 and you are willing to spend $90 to get this one customer. Given that you don't spend any other money to service him, try with $90 in case you're not able to acquire customers. So they don't test enough. That's another mistake which they make quite often. And then I found like sometimes most of the campaigns run on auto mode. Like they're not looking at their data diligently every week or 2 weeks, right? So that's another mistake which I think you should prevent. It's not a mistake; it's rather a lack of diligence. Then another thing which I also frequently see is creative refresh for the sake of refresh, right? So I keep hearing about clients telling me like, oh, it's been 3 weeks we have been running this creative, should we change it? Actually, there's a way to measure it. Try to look for creative fatigue and creative half-life. Again, I won't talk about it. It's a number, or there's enough insight available on the internet. Basically, you're trying to look at the drop in response rates. That's when you know like this creative needs to be changed. Before that, don't invest. That's another, you're spending too much money on creative but not enough on your campaigns. Then you have mix of budget. So sometimes, let's say if a client has $1,000 budget, they will spend more than 50% of it in production, but just 30 or 40% in distribution or amplification of the content or creative. I think that's another mistake which should be avoided. So statistically speaking, your mix should be about 30-70 or 40-60. It shouldn't be like creative or content takes more. So that's another mistake I see. Then there's a lot of other smaller mistakes I have seen, but I'm just
These
telling
are
you
all
what.
good, seriously. Thank you so much, Krishna. Because another thing that I wanted to quickly, Manfred, was that?
No, sorry, I just want to interrupt a bit. The cost cap thing, say example, you are willing to spend $100. Based on my experience itself, a lot of time, you will never reach $100. You always underspend. It always without fail underspend. The budget you set for it, you always underspend. So, say example, if you know you are willing to spend $100 to get a customer, and you always underspend, do I really go and tune it up, make it maybe $200 so that you will even spend more?
You're talking about Facebook, right?
Yeah, Facebook, yes.
Yeah. So almost every platform has a cost cap in certain different names or variations.
Right.
So ultimately, you have many variables to choose from. There's a creative variable, there's a line item or target audience variable. So maybe you want to try different audiences. And there's a structured element to it, meaning let's say if you're using $100 for the entire campaign, perhaps you want to try a reach and frequency campaign layered with a conversion campaign. So your audience is not necessarily cold. So there's various elements you can try. I don't think your only option is to just go above $100. That's not necessarily the only strategy. This discussion is extremely contextual. So look at your data again, look at your target audience, look at each and every aspect. If you are tightly controlling your audience definition, maybe the CPM is too high. So the algorithm judges that they are not going to make a profit, they are not going to deliver your ads at all.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to quickly touch a little bit because Christopher was just sharing with me about his recent experiment. Christopher, the guy with the Shopify guy, the guy crazy experimenter, the guy. So he recently experimented two ad sets running, one on bid cap, the other one on cost cap. He said cost cap seems to be able to give him a more stable one, but ultimately, what we understand the cost cap and bid cap is, bid cap is for you to really scale when you're having underspending issue, like what Manfred was saying. Then you can use that to push. And our usual practice is you can push it out to double, no problem, because it doesn't mean that you're going to spend that much anyway. You're just sending an indicator.
There's no direct relationship with cost.
Correct. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, it's still the CPM, it's still the market demand and supply mechanism that is deciding. But you're just sending a signal hoping that you'll be, you're a bit higher. It's about the bidding part. But cost cap recently, according to the book, cost cap is something that you should use when you want a more predictable result. I think yes. I think yeah. Seriously, Christopher just sharing with me, he said cost cap does give him a very good cost per acquisition result. So yeah, something if you already know, I think this is really something for those seasoned or somebody who have been doing this for a while, that you know that okay, your cost per sign up is about this, then I don't want to go further than that, and you can try going for cost cap. But I want to quickly touch base about the first mistake that Krishna was mentioning just now, right? Yes, totally agree, because recently we know this iOS 14.5 issue, and the whole world was kind of like go rah-rah about it. Why? Because wow, I lost this, I don't get this and all this, To be frank, like what Krishna was saying, you probably have problem because you're not setting up your GA part. The goals on your Google Analytics. And Krishna was also saying that if you are not able to know whether your ads bring you result in real time, in this current time, you're just being lazy. You're just not doing the tracking work of the setting up the framework in the correct way. So you should know whether the ads is getting you clicks. You should know the ads is, whether it's getting you result and all that. You shouldn't rely on single tracking platform. So when you have all these things set up, like we've been talking about UTM, and all these things, when you have all this set up, you shouldn't have issue. So the iOS 14 is just a reporting delay. We were just discussing about that, right? Manfred, inside our group. Yeah, doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I mean, what's wrong with that, right? At the end of the day, if everything is well tracked, I don't think it's an issue.
But GA will have captured the data already because it lands on the website.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the other way now.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you use UTM parameters, like UTM source equal to, for example, paid social or social, and UTM medium equal to whatever placement you're using, followed by whatever, right? Your GA will tell you, like, these guys came today or maybe in the last 30 minutes from this particular channel and conversion happened,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
So
it is in fact a lot more reliable compared to whatever. I'm not saying that Facebook analytics or Facebook data is not reliable. It's just that we need to have a backup. At least we know.
Facebook
right?
Analytics going to close at the end of June.
Analytics is going away, and then of course we know that the audience insights is also going away. That's why
I've got to tell you something interesting about Facebook, right? I really
Sure,
love this. So let's assume, right? I've done various campaigns for my clients. So again, this is about a CBO. CBO gets used so often, right? So I didn't know which target audience would work for my clients. So I used a lookalike, which they gave me. I used audience they have used, and I used 3 custom audience, which are based on demographics and behaviors on Facebook. To simplify it, let's just say I have 2 audiences. Let's say moms, and let's say newly married, right? And let's take the context of Singapore, right? Usually, if you have a child, you have almost married. You're definitely married. That's the case, right? So there's very limited overlap between the audience, right? So I started this campaign on Facebook on CBO, and obviously remember three creative rules. So you have 3 creatives, each with a different headline. The creative is more or less same. It's just the headline is different or more custom created for the audience. So it speaks to the audience, right? So Facebook, what Facebook Insights does, remember analytic platforms or algorithms are designed by humans. They can't really judge everything for you, right? So it so happened after running the campaign for 7 days, the client panicked and called me at 8 p.m. saying, "Hey Krishna, I've got a analytics on campaign overview saying on Facebook like you should consolidate your audiences. I'm like, why?
Oh,
Because it says like you could get more conversions based on consolidating your asset. I'm like, all right, hold on. Allow me to explain. So I said, let me get back to you tomorrow. So all I did was I went back to office next day. I drew up my cost per each chart and whatsoever, and I explained to him, look, the way it works is very simple. They do see like there are three different similar images. So all they're telling is just do the headline one and headline two, put them together and let us optimize. But actually, if you just think about it, it's already on CBO. The only difference between the two campaigns is the target item. So whichever audience is available and will convert, Facebook will optimize to it, right? So all I'm trying to say is sometimes use your brain. You don't have to necessarily measure the data. Is the reach increasing? Nothing like that happened. Big audiences, and just use your data. Just use common sense to judge whether the recommendation given to you by algorithm is true. And this happens in Google as well, by the way, right? So I have a fintech client. They do insurance valuation for commercial assets, right? So when I launched the campaign, I saw insights coming in saying that you might want to bid for, and they're asking me to bid for real estate valuation, right? Like because in Singapore, when you buy and sell, you have to get a valuer and so on and so forth. But that's not a category I'm invested in. So every algorithm gives you certain insights based on how they design. Ultimately, you have to use your own brain and judge if it is true or not. And then implement it. Don't follow it blindly. It doesn't work.
I totally
and
agree.
Don't panic.
Exactly the thing. But seriously, because I cannot blame all these advertisers. I cannot blame them because they're putting the money in, so they can always feel the pain when it's not working. Then they'll be like, okay, something is not right. I need to do something about it. And especially when it's coming from Facebook, they receive an email, right, or notification on Facebook and all that saying that you have this, you need to do that. I don't know whether should I blame Facebook or not. They're trying to give us some data. Yeah, we can't blame them because, like for example, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get, learning limited. You know that thing. Oh my God! I was like, the learning limited thing. I mean, it really scares people. To be frank, it really scares people.
Good.
But I understand that they are trying to help because they're trying to give you some heads up that look, then this thing. But I totally agree with Krishna. Sometimes, as long as, sorry.
I was going to say, like, I have a client which scaled 10 times in the last year that I've been serving him. And he has been operating Facebook. I've been doing Facebook for him for 6 months, last 6 months, because we were initially Google and GTM. You won't believe me, I've never had an ad set which has learned. All the ad sets are learning limited. Yet we get leads from Facebook and they close.
Yes, I've seen that.
Totally agree. I think that's the most important thing. As long as your ad is giving you result, is performing and getting you whatever sales or leads or conversions and all that, right? As long as it's doing fine, I mean, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Just keep it there. Don't panic. Totally agree with Krishna because these are just some whatever algorithm triggered kind of like notification and whatnot just to confuse you. But it gets more now, it actually gets more complicated right now. Things are like, for example, recently we have a lot of creative fatigue issues coming up in our campaigns because I have a client that spends about close to 200,000 a month. Usually within weeks and within days, they might hit into creative fatigue. But I want to touch base about CBO. Sorry, I want to skew a little bit to the Facebook ad side already. CBO, I have been seeing some really like mixed result with CBO right now. But what makes you use CBO?
So the only time I use CBO is when I don't know which audience will work, right? Or I don't have a variable which I know will perform, right? The idea about CBO is to control certain variables that you give to the algorithm and let it optimize on the variables you have configured, right? For example, you have line item or TA1, TA2 with a cost cap of A and B in different segments. You ultimately want to give the control. So algorithm is not something you want to beat. Take it as your frenemy. It could be your friend or your enemy, whatever you want to think of it. Right? Ultimately, you want to give the control to the algorithm and see which ad set learns fast, right? So if I see like based on my cost cap changes or what's not, let's say if the TA1 learns already and sees enough reach, the CPA is good, what I would do is actually I'll take it out and put it into its own regular campaign where it will have a dedicated home and dedicated budget, and I'll use CBO for other things. So it's just
Right.
for me to use the time and budget given by the by the advertiser to get more variables in my control instead of leaving it at algorithm control. That's about it.
So you
Yeah.
are using CBO as a discovery process, and then
sure.
once they have given you the right signal from the ads, you then break them up, and then you go manual, and you control. Okay.
Correct.
That makes sense. I
Correct.
think that. Sorry, please. You saying?
Because ultimately we have very limited tools to figure out what's the size of the algorithm, what's the size of the audience, what's the conversion ratios for the category. These kind of information is not available, so we have to figure out a way to discover stuff fast, for the given budget and time. I can't wait forever.
I agree.
I guess
agree.
unless you're Apple, where you spend 100 million ad budget, then Facebook will reach out to you and they give you access to more data. Apparently, that's the case.
It is
Not
true.
necessarily, but it might happen. It might happen. I would say.
It does. They do.
Actually,
Yeah.
it does happen. It does happen.
Yes.
So I have a Facebook account manager on one client at the moment, and during my time in Dentsu, I still have that chart with me. I used to operate on a client that was spending $10,000 per day on Facebook.
Hmm.
So Facebook allocates you a regular account manager who will actually talk to you. They will even deliver some free products for you. So it does happen. Andrew is totally accurate.
Yep. Okay, we have an interesting question. I mean, this is not a question,
Okay.
it's a statement coming from the audience, coming from Sri. He's saying learning limited won't let ads move. Instead of leads to high cost. I think, okay, in this case, right, I think we need more information from Sri because I would say at the end of the day, right, if it's leading it to high cost, you see now you're actually talking about two contradicting issues here. You're saying that the learning limited is not letting your ads move. That means that you're underspending. Then it's not really about the learning limited issue. It's about the audience, it could be. It's about some other issues that might be coming in. So when you say it doesn't let the ad move, then it shouldn't be leading to high cost because you are saying that you're not letting the ad move, meaning that you're not spending. It should be underspending. When you underspend, then how can all this leads to high cost? I mean, this is a very interesting statement. Just what I want to say. And I think we would definitely love to discuss further on this one if you can give us more information, Sri. But yeah, fill us in with more information. Okay? We have any insights on this one, Krishna?
No, he actually
No, right?
said like this.
It's like kind of like
when
we
the
need to
ads don't move,
implement
yeah.
Correct,
The ads
correct.
have to deliver reach. The first thing in your funnel is actually reach, followed by impressions, clicks, and thereby
Yeah.
conversion, right? So
it may not be just about the learning limited issue already. It could be because of there are many angles to look at this, but interesting. Fill us with more information. We will bring it up for discussion. But guys, remember, we have a quick giveaway. Now, if you're watching this right now, I want you to actually guess how many marketing platforms combining online and offline that Krishna has actually helped his client plan on. So I already put it up at the bottom over here. So
Yes.
all you need to do is just type in a number. Everybody only got one chance, basically. You type in your number, just guess how many platforms or so how many channels that he has worked on, and then the winner will walk away with 1 hour session with Krishna where you can ask him any questions. I think up to now you already know that this guy is dead crazy, serious, technical, and deep with deep knowledge in a lot of things.
So Sri, if you want to get your question answered just now that Jason brought it up and get Krishna answered.
Oh yeah, man.
Put in your answers. Spend an hour with him. He will solve your learning limited.
Well, I tell you, whatever
also
problem
your
all solved. I think it should be. So basically, that's what you want. Answer, fine. I mean, put in your answer so that we know, so that you can guess. So we will actually review the question, the answer towards the end of the show, and it's already coming up like another 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes to go. I want to bring it up the last questions. Okay, now maybe we just pick maybe 2 to 3 platforms but Krishna, I leave it to you. Now, how do we set proper KPI? And you probably can pick 2 to 3 platforms. I think 2 is good enough. How do we set the proper KPI to track the effectiveness of whether it's getting us what we want or not?
So I think when it comes to KPI, it's not really about effectiveness. It's your ability to deliver on the KPI and getting enough of it or volume on it. So I'll take an example, and I will take actually two platforms again. I'll take Facebook and Instagram and your regular UAC, for example. Right? So the story goes as such. So we were doing a UAC app campaign, and the goal was to get a registered customer, meaning an install doesn't count. We were sending back codes from registration. What had happened is we had ran this particular setup on both Google and Facebook for about 3 months, and we were seeing a increase in the cost per acquisition on a daily basis. Right now, the idea basically what's happening is the client's only running performance marketing for them. There's not enough brand cover. So what's happening is basically your pool from which you can take the users is depleting faster than you're fulfilling it, right? So the algorithms cannot deliver at a lower cost, right? So at this moment in time, we had to do something to take this limited budget of and want to scale, right? And branding as an activity was, again, this was a Japanese client, and they were not, interested to do branding as an activity. So what I did was I actually asked them about the demographic and psychographic information of the customers they have, right? So what I mean by that is this is a new platform, new product. They used to get about 300 registrations per day. I have a chart and I have the data. They were spending about won't tell the number, but they were spending a decent amount of budget per day. Now, how do I scale on it, right? I actually took the demographic information, I took the psychographic information, and I found the most like-to-like definitions available on Facebook and Instagram. And instead of targeting cost per registration, I actually started targeting cost per install. Now, before I started doing cost per install, what I did is we used to have AppsFlyer, which used to monitor conversion ratios between install and registration for each of the advertising line items. So we knew, like on Facebook, 35% were installs were converting to registration. So we knew that information, right? So in essence, if I'm able to get exactly the same number of installs with a cost per install campaign with a 35% assumed benchmark of conversion from install to conversion, I should be able to increase the optimization of that, the cost efficiency of my campaign. Now, why do I say that? Cost per registration is a harder activity to do for the algorithm, whereas a CPR is a better activity to do. Of course, I'm not giving it a blanket like find CPA among anyone. I'm telling it which audiences to target. So I'll give you the numbers. It took me about 3 weeks, but at the end of 3.5 weeks, this was a multi-$1,000 campaign per day. I ended up getting about 400 registrations per day for the same account. So what I'm trying to tell you here is very simple. Ultimately, what the algorithm does for you, or rather is supposed to do, is if a person is willing to convert for your business today, it's supposed to find that person for you, right? Right, and you don't necessarily need a target audience for it, right? But if you know your customer accurately and you target them, sometimes even for a cost per reach kind of campaign, it works. It's just about knowing your target audience well enough. So when it comes to proper KPI, start with the most important KPI. If it doesn't work, try to go a little bit above in the funnel, but don't start with those impression or traffic kind of campaigns. Slowly and steadily try and test it out. It always works. Yeah.
That's a very interesting insight. I would definitely agree with that. But to be frank, it all also have to come back, to your campaign and see at the end of the day, because Krishna was using a UAC or what, the cost per registration or cost per install kind of
this
campaign,
one was
right?
an example for Facebook and Instagram.
Right?
So the 304, yeah.
Okay, so you have to really look at, because different scenario, you probably are driving people to the conversion on the site and all this kind of thing. But yes, I will agree with that. If the hardest conversion is not happening, we move to the next, upper layer of the funnel. Okay, now Sri came back though. Sri came back though. So let's bring this out. I think this is a very interesting discussion. So Sri was saying, okay, so his learning limited doesn't allow the ads to move. Okay. And then okay, so what's the ideal number?
Ideal.
Okay. Okay, I think it's a two things. So first thing first, maybe we come to this. Krishna, what is your take?
So when it comes to ideal, again, new business versus old business, if you have enough seed audience, you start with a lookalike, that's your one. and you create another one which is converters. So lookalike of converters, lookalike of leads is the perfect audience to start with if you already have some data. But if you don't have that enough data, what you do is whatever conversions you have got in the past, try to just interview your customers and figure out what they do online. It could be on a survey. You could just talk to them and you can figure out what kind of properties they search, what kind of things they view. You can get the demographic information from them. It's really easy. I would start with 3 actually, and I'll use CBO to discover. So I would say 2 to 3 line items or target items on Facebook is enough. And as for which one is working or which one is not working, let CBO help you out over there. You don't have to manually control the spending per day on each asset. At the end of 2 or 3 weeks or whenever, you will what you should see actually. Let me explain what happens when you do a CBO. And let's say Facebook is not efficiently able to find enough audience for 1 to 3. What you'll see is maybe the one which keep on delivering, the Facebook will keep on delivering on that asset. But at a certain point, the cost will be higher for that asset. So assets 2 will start delivering. So that's your best. So when I say 2, I don't mean 2 in sequence. I mean, let's say A and C.
The second one,
then whichever, the random number, right? And then maybe
make it as a car asset. It will be easier to understand. BMW, Mercedes, Audi asset.
Yeah, exactly. So first one, which is easiest to deliver, will start to deliver, and once it reaches a cost cap or a place where algorithm doesn't make enough money, the second best audience will start delivering. And the same behavior will repeat until the algorithm comes to a status quo, meaning it has come to a point where the cost across all the 3 assets is equivalent. It takes a long time to reach that point. So most likely you will have that answer. Actually, once you know already your asset A is delivering, there's no need to compare anymore. You discover which audience, bring it out. Reduce one variable from the algorithm to optimize on.
Right.
So I hope I
not
answered
performing one, take it out, or the performing, take it out.
Performing, I mean, either way, right? Performing one. Rely on the performing one, because the non-performing one is based on not delivering of ads. So it's not really a failure. It's basically nothing has happened. So how do you know it's failed or not? Right?
So your performing one, you take it out lah. The performing one.
Take it out, operate on it, and let the CBO work on the others.
Yeah, Krishna mentioned what he mentioned is actually he actually have a 3 weeks duration. A lot of people that I know 2-3 days. In fact, I myself also make this mistake. So when you do this kind of testing, give sufficient timing. That's very important.
I can do a statistical for you. So the way to do it, not on a day perspective, should be on a statistics perspective actually. If let's say you know the cost per acquisition for your campaigns, and let's say you have 3 line items, and assume the cost per acquisition for 3 target items is same, you should at least allocate 3 into 50 into cost of acquisition as your budget to the campaign. So if let's say it's $10 per acquisition across all the 3 assets, that's $30 already.
Yep.
30 into 50, $1,500. So that's the number you should allocate at least to the campaign. And then let it run. See how much it is spending on a daily basis. If you don't have time, you might want to increase. If you put a cap in, you might want to increase, or you might want to reduce one variable away. So you just have 2 variables to optimize on. That's the CBO, way to. Yeah.
So CBO is also contingent of you need to have sufficient or so-called slightly above budget in order to get it working.
Correct. And I forgot to mention a point. I usually almost never use a lifetime budget campaign. Never use a daily budget campaign. I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah. So I almost always use a lifetime budget campaign.
Wow.
Yeah, Krishna, one more thing. Just now what you mentioned is you are suggesting for 3 assets, how much budget for $10 acquisition? How much again?
So at least 50 acquisitions per asset.
Yeah, correct, 50.
So that the campaign
your daily itself roughly will be how much again? Sorry, I didn't catch the number.
I usually do 10, but most clients are comfortable with 2 or 3 times that acquisition. So.
Okay, can.
Because it doesn't deliver
10 times.
10 times, because you are supposed to monitor it on a daily or twice a day basis anyways, right? So if you see it's delivering 10 times, it's spending entire budget, it's a no-brainer. Take it out from the campaign. It's going to deliver.
It's working.
Okay, understood.
Right. I think these are all very interesting insights. good learning from Krishna over here. Now I think it's about time that we need to actually quickly do our website of the week. So give us a bit of time, Krishna. Hang in there before you announce your winner, because we have a couple of people already kind of submitted their answer, so we will do the thing. But before that, because it's our normal thing to do, our friend here, Manfred, is going to bring up one website of the week.
One more minute to enter your numbers and win an hour with Krishna.
Yeah, you can still enter your number, as in how many online or offline marketing platforms that Krishna planned with. So basically we're gonna announce the winner in a bit. But Manfred, Manfred,
okay,
over to you.
Okay,
so that's
quick bot.
Okay, what's that?
Okay, this is a paraphrasing tool. Sometimes you have certain articles. I use quite a lot, but I come across this one which I kind of like it. So say example, we try a sample text. We put what you want to change this session. Then you can adjust the degree. See, less changes is more accurate. There are more changes. Of course, the ultimate one you have to pay lah. So then you will just change, paraphrase thing. Okay. So there's even tools here. You can change accordingly. You see.
Wow.
All right.
Oh, this is great for copywriting, man.
Yeah, this is cool, man.
Yeah. So a lot of things you can copy the sentence and so forth. So you can see here, vocabulary enhancement, find the right synonyms, then plug into writing tools that you already use, trusted by many people. Okay, Jason, if you don't mind, help me to put this one inside both YouTube and Facebook.
It's already there.
I haven't tried some other stuff like the summarizer. This one you can try out. I haven't tried it before. So it's quite a powerful tool.
Okay.
Yeah, even I haven't do premium yet, no. So I found this very interesting.
I think I'll actually quickly test it out later on. Yeah, I think this is useful. Thanks, Manfred. Now, now, Krishna, over to you. How many marketing platforms that you have planned with? Please give us the answer. We have a few over here.
So the exact answer is 11 actually.
11.
Okay,
it's 13, but two have got obsolete or not necessarily relevant anymore. So I don't know if you guys remember freestanding insert in Malaysia. It's very common.
Wow. Okay.
I don't use it. I mean,
you don't have it anymore.
I don't know.
I don't think it's utilized anymore.
Stopped subscribing newspaper for 3 years, so.
Yeah. So it's not really relevant so much. So 13 is the real answer, but yeah. I'll go.
What's the other one aside from insert? The other one that so-called died.
Direct mailer. So direct mail used to be often planned. We don't use now you've got SyncPost. You can just send letters to SyncPost, or you can hire some guy to actually go and put stuff into letterboxes. So it's no more a planning activity. It's so easy to do. You can do it without planning. It's still the same cost. If you plan it, it's more costly. So.
Okay. So I think at the moment we have no winner, but I guess let's do it this way. Closest is Chiwai said 10.
Chiwai,
Chiwai was saying 10. So do you want to give him?
Yes, of course.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so Chiwai is the closest answer and he is the winner. But on top of that, right, I think Krishna, you have some consolation prizes.
Oh, got consolation on that.
Sure, I'm happy. So let's do a half an hour.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Now, if Chiwai will win 1 hour, so anyone else who have already commented and put in your answer, you have half an hour. Okay, all you need to do is very simple. I'm putting Krishna's website in right now. Okay, so you can go and visit him and get in touch with him. Yeah, reach out to him and to claim your prizes, and just to of course just to get pick his brain on whatever that you're doing right now. Seriously, when it comes to all this customer acquisition. All right, I think that's all we have for today. Seriously, learn a lot from you, Krishna. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for all the insightful sharings and all the seriously jam-packed with a lot of learning. And hopefully we can have you come on board soon to really discuss on some other topics which Manfred recommended. Yep, let's stay in touch and let's keep in touch. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in today. And this is the Three Marketeers Show. Remember, we do this every Wednesday night. So all you need to do is very simple. You just come up and join us over here on Facebook or YouTube. Okay, and we're gonna go live at 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. So this is episode 35. We plan to do 100. We'll see you next week.
We will do 100.
And yeah, this is Jason. I have Krishna here, who is our guest, and Manfred and Andrew. Basically, we will see you next week in our Three Marketeers Show. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Stay safe.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Bye.